Hey, Blender Bob here. Today we're going to talk about pipeline. I'm not talking about this kind of pipeline, I'm talking about VFX Studio pipeline. Now, I work in many companies in my career, and every company has a different pipeline and a different way of working. But this company where I work right now, realbyfake, we have the best pipeline I ever had in my career. And why it's the best? Because we made it from scratch according to what I need. Yeah, so let's check it out. The idea is to transform this scene here into the Nevada desert, just like this. This is a work in progress version. This is what it looks like. It looks a little bit complicated at first, but it's not that hard. Okay, so everything is well organized here. So we have the asset builds, we have the shots. You can see all the shots, they start at 10 and then 20, 30 like this. They go at every 10 because in case there's a change in the edit and they want to add a new shot, let's say between 70 and 80, then we have the space to do it. We're just going to call it 75. And if for some reason they ever needed more than 9 shots in between, then we would call them 70A, 70B, 70C. If I click on shots, you will see the list of all the shots here in my project. If I click on one of these shots, I will see all the tasks that are assigned to this shot. So you have the comp here and the delivery, lighting, plates, and everything, all the elements that we need to do the shots. And if I click on versions, then we can see all the versions that have been submitted. I just need to click on the icon to see the shot. And I just need to click on this button here to change the status of the shot. So it could be like final approved or client approved, needs correction, whatever. On top of the list here, you have the asset build. So these are the elements that are needed to do this project. Now you see there's a lot of stuff missing, like the ground, the plants and everything. That's because it's a project that I started in Maya and I converted it later and all the assets were already built. So now I'm just going to create a task. I will give it a name, so look dev, and then I will choose the type. What is it? So in this case, it could be like, VFX, 3D, modeling, layout, whatever. It's a look dev task. Okay, then assignee, who's going to work on it? Well, it's going to be me, so I'm going to put my name there. We can also put the bid hours. This is the amount of time that is allocated to do this task. All this stuff is not done by the artist, it's done by the coordinators. Now you see on the side I got modeling and I got look dev. Okay, let's start working. I'm going to click on the little A here and I can decide which software I want to use. In this case, I don't want to do compositing, I want to do 3D, so I'm going to choose Blender. Blender 292, because right now this is what we're using for this project. This window pops up and I'm going to decide what I want to work on. So I got modeling and look dev. I'm going to go for modeling. There are no previous versions, so it's going to automatically create a new one. So I just need to press OK. We're going to speed this up a little bit. So I'm going to create a balloon. Then I'm going to create an array modifier to copy it. And then I'm going to create another array modifier to copy it again. So now I get 100 balloons. And I'm going to apply all the modifiers. I'm going to select one of the balloons and I will delete it. So now I have 99 balloons. Okay, I will place a camera, some basic lights, and I'm just going to do a render. The render is just to make sure that, well, it renders properly, and it's also going to be the icon that's going to be used in the browser in F-Track to see the file. I actually render 2 frames because I think there's a bug if you only render 1, you need a minimum of 2, but it's no big deal. Just to make sure everything is okay, I will go in render and view animation, so I will see my frames. There they are. Yeah, okay, it looks good. Perfect. Now I can publish them. All I need to do is go in the fake menu and go publish renders to F-Track. A window will pop up and I can use it to write some comments. It's really important to write comments so that you can track what has been changed from one version to another. Now the publishing is being done right now. There's a little window here, I need to bring it here. So it's publishing to F-Track. And now we can go to F-Track and see the changes. So let's take this out. Okay, yes, I'm going to save it. Actually, I don't think I need to save it. It does it automatically when you publish. Alright, so modeling here, if I go into versions, you can see I got my version here that has been published and everything looks good. Alright. If we look in a file browser, you can see everything has been saved automatically and named properly. So I go in internal render, I can see the proxy. This is the 2 renders I did. In Blender project main, I see my file here, and there's one called published also. So the file here, this is the backup that Blender does, and one is called published. This is an exact copy of version 1, but this one will always be updated to the latest version. So if I create a new one, let's start another Blender here. Now you can see in the pop-up that version 1 already exists. So I'm going to open it. I'm going to make some modifications here. I'm just going to scale it, whatever. It's not really important. It's just for the sake of doing a demo. And see if I go in the fake menu, I can version up the project. So now I got a version 2. And you can see everything changed automatically. The name here changed for the render automatically to version 2. Okay, so I'm going to redo some renders and publish the file. Always important to write a comment, so what I did was to do some changes, new scale. Alright, okay. Now if we look at the browser window, you can see that there's also a version 2, but the published version is now a copy of version 2. It's the exact same thing. So when we load something in a scene, we're always going to go with the published version so we get the latest, greatest every time. Okay, I'm satisfied with the modeling and it's approved by the client. And in this case, it's me, so I'm just going to set it to completed. Let's move on to Look Dev. So I'm going to start another Blender here. Okay, Blender. Same thing again, pops the window. And this time I'm going to choose Look Dev because this is what we want to do. It creates a new scene for me. What eventually we're going to be able to do is to go into our asset browser. We have our own asset browser here. Just select it, and from there we're going to be able to see everything that has been modeled or published or anything that is related to the scene. So we can see we have modeling here. We should be able, actually we shouldn't see the versions here, we should just see the published version. Just import it and it would get into the scene. And then once the asset is in there, it would be linked in the scene and we would use overrides on the shaders to do the texturing. The problem is that shader override is not yet implemented in Blender, so what we have to do is just open the modeling scene directly. But ideally it would be a link from the modeling scene. So I'll just go link and I will go into the published file for the balloon. So modeling, Blender project, main, published, and I will go select my object. Okay, I will just add a red shader on it and now I have 99 red balloons. Now I'm looking forward to see how many people will write a comment about this one. Okay, you know the drill, you render, you check your renders, you write a comment and you publish it. As I'm publishing this file, I just realized I did something very stupid, very stupid. I went too fast doing this demo and I didn't even take time to name my stuff properly and put them into collections. It's really important because when we assemble everything in the layout, we import collections in the scene, not individual objects. So I will fix this. I created all my collections here. So I got balloon here and I got a collection with the sun cameras. It's all crap stuff I don't need. It doesn't matter because when I do the layout, I'm only going to import the balloon collection. Bad Blender Bob. How can you do something so stupid? No, I won't do push-ups because I've been able to fix it before anybody could see it, okay? I fixed the mistake and nobody could see it. My supervisor couldn't see it. Well, I don't even have a supervisor. I'm the supervisor. Okay, let's move on to layout, and this is where you're going to freak out. I'm going to blow your mind. Okay, so the shot we are working with is 260 here. I'm going to click on this little button here and start another Blender, and this way we're going to be able to load the layout shot. Actually, it's a lighting shot because the layout has already been done. Now, when you open a scene in Blender, it's very cool because it's going to set up a lot of things for you. It's going to set up the camera angle, the film back, the start frame, the end frame, all the image planes. If you have one in the front, one in the back, it's going to set up the render resolution. Everything will be set up for you. So you see, if I select the camera, you can see all the image planes are there. I got main and proxy. Main is the EXR file, the original full quality, or proxy is just a JPEG version. And it all loads automatically in your scene. And it sets up everything, the start frame, the end frame, the color space, everything. You just need to decide if you want it in front or in the back, and that's pretty much it. Now let's say I didn't have the guy in my scene, okay? I'm just going to remove it and re-import it. So in Compositing, they did the keying, they did the roto and everything, they published it, and now it's available for me in the asset browser. So I'm just going to open it. It takes a while because there's a lot of stuff in it, and I have access to everything from every show, not just this one, but everything. And now I can just browse to what I want. I want this guy here, just click on it, click on import, and that's it. It's going to do it for me. Really cool. And now I got my two image planes that just appeared here. Pretty cool, huh? Just put it in front and that's it. In this scene, I got multiple layers. I got the ground. Now let's take a look at the shadows. So if I render this one here on screen, you will only see the shadows. You won't see the trees and you won't see the ground. And that's because I put the plants, you can see they are in old out. And if you look at here in the outliner, they are old out, so you don't see them. For the ground itself, it's another collection with a ground that's just for shadow. It's a shadow catcher. Now if I look at the trees, I will only get the trees, But in this case, the ground will be as a holdout, so it's going to cut the bottom of the trees to make sure that when I comp it, I won't see the part that goes under the ground. I get another render layer called ref, and this one has everything in it. Everything is turned on, so I can get a general idea of what it looks like when I do the lighting. But I prefer to render everything separately, so in comp you have much more latitude, and dealing with cryptomats, it's not always perfect. So, I prefer to work this way, especially for the shadows. Okay, let's take a look at our fake output. This is very cool. You can decide here which layer you want to render. Maybe you just want to render the ground or not, or you can turn it on and off. And the one next to it, the little mountain, that means it's going to be part of the pre-comp or not. And you can also have a copy-paste settings here. You can copy and paste it on another layer for all the settings, the render layer settings. Render layer settings? What are you talking about, dude? Well, I'm talking about this. If you click on this button, you get this spreadsheet here, and you can manage everything in one view. So you can decide, oh, okay, this for rendering, I want it on or off. It's the same thing as clicking the buttons here. It's actually the same thing. What it does is exactly the same thing as if you go there and you click on use for rendering. So you see if I turn it on, off, it's the same thing. It's all connected together. And you can manage everything there, which cameras with which objects you want in the scene, which light, all the passes you want. If you want the Z depth you want, the combine you want, everything. You decide whatever you want. You have total control, and it's very easy to see all your layers at the same time. I get access to all the parameters that you can imagine. Not only these, but I can also have all the diffuse and the glossy, the shadows, the environment, everything. Same thing for the cryptomat. I just need it for the trees, so I'm just going to turn it on for this. I don't need it for anything else. And that's it. Alright, this is pretty cool. That's our render layer setting. Now, if you render an image and you use cryptomat, you will need a 32-bit image because 16-bit will not work. Well, in Nuke it won't work. I don't know in Blender, I didn't try it in the compositor, but we use Nuke, so we need 32-bit. And if you have an image with a lot of layers on it, and you also have a lot of outputs like the diffuse, the glossiness, the emission, and all this stuff, that becomes very, very heavy and it's unmanageable because the images are just too big. So the solution we had was to split the data and the color. So the color is everything that has to do with the color of the image. So the diffuse, the glossy, and all this stuff. And the data is the depth, the mist, the cryptomat, and other things like this. So we split it, the data is 32-bit and the images are 16-bit. And we're going to set this here. We can say, okay, I want to render the EXR and I want the images to be in 16-bit, but I want the data passes to be in 32 bits. Everything that's turned on in this section will be part of the EXR 16-bit. And everything that's in there, this is going to be the 32-bit stuff and also the cryptomat. Wait, I'm not done yet. I'm just starting. If you have many layers, it may become very heavy to work with one big file. Right now it's single multi-layer asset, which means the EXR will have all the layers all in the same file. But I can go into layers to multiple assets. That will create one file per layer. Or I can group them together per asset. So I could say, for example, ground and trees are going to be in asset 2 and shadow and ref is going to be in asset 1, and I can name them anything I want. It doesn't have to be asset 1 or asset 2. We can also apply Nuke channel transformations because Blender works Z up instead of Y up, so we need to change some stuff. No, hold on, you ain't seen nothing yet. If I press this magical button here, create render node, it's going to set up all the compositing for me. As you can see, it created the file here for asset 1 and 2. This is asset 2, version 8. Everything is named. This is the beauty pass and this is the data pass. You can see everything has been connected according to what we decide in the render layer manager. Now let's go back to our render layer manager and let's see if we make some changes. Let's say we want to add some stuff. We're going to add the Z depth and we're going to add, I don't know, the UVs and whatever, I don't know, vector. We'll make a few changes like this, and just to make sure what we're going to do, also let's add some diffuse direct, and we need it on the trees. So for the trees, I'm going to select all this stuff. Okay, I think that's enough. Now I'm going to refresh my render nodes. I'm just going to click on this again, and everything has been updated automatically. These are changes we need to do on the channels for the motion vector because Blender works Z up instead of Y up, and that gives us a lot of trouble in compositing in Nuke, so we fix it in Blender before we export the files. So if we scroll down, we can see that was asset 2, and here we have asset 1 here with the same changes. Okay, let's change everything to single file. So we're going to change this to single multi-layer file, refresh the script, and now everything has been redone. You can see the name has been changed. You can see all the outputs for the file, everything that's going to be there, the beauty, the diffuse, the glossy, and everything. We also needed to do a change for the normals. I don't have the normals here, so let's add them. I'm going to go back to my render layer settings, and I'm going to add a normal pass so we can see the changes that are being done. Okay, so render layer manager, let's add the normals for, I don't know, any layer. Let's do it on the trees, for example, and the shadows. Well, shadows. I don't need normals on the shadows, but anyway, it doesn't matter. And you can see it did some changes here. So it flips some channels, it changes the red and the green, I think, and it multiplies some values by -1. Anyway, anything we need to get it work into Nuke.
Sit down, I'm not finished.
It's going to pre-comp the scene, including the image plane. So we're going to have the sky, then we're going to have the ground, we're going to have the shadows, we're going to have the trees, and then we're going to have the guy in front. Everything will be done automatically as a pre-comp and rendered as a JPEG sequence that we can see in F-Track. And the Oscar for the best VFX pipeline programmer in the industry goes to...
Well, I'm not going to give you his name. You're going to call him and steal him from us.
Once our setup is done, we're not going to render locally, we're going to render this on the farm. So first I'm going to version up the project. Now, the cool thing is, when I do this, as I showed you before, it updates everything, all the path, all the names, everything is going to be all good. See, it changed here. If I go here on my output, version 9 also. If I go into the compositing, I zoom in, everything has been updated to version 9. All I have to do is submit to render farm. Then it's going to pop a little window. I'm going to set how many cores I want per machine, so 36 cores per machine. And the frame range, I'm just going to render 10 frames because we're just doing a test, a demo here. I'm not going to flood the farm just for the fun of it. Okay, and once it's done, it's going to tell me a little message to confirm that everything has been sent to the farm. Here we go. Now in the render manager, I click load. I can see the file here. I double click on it and I can see all the processors that are being used for rendering. By the way, we use Qtopia, which is an open source rendering managing software. So once the render is done and I verified it, I'm just going to publish it to F-Track. And that means it's going to be available in Compositing if they want to use these shots. They're going to open their file and they're going to see, hey, there's new stuff available. Do you want to load it? Or something needs to be updated. So we get everything at the right place, properly named, the data, the main and the proxy. The proxy is what Blender does, the pre-comp and low-res and JPEG. This is ready for comp, so let's take a look at Nuke. So still in shot 260, go back here. I'm just going to click on Nuke. And just like we had in Blender, we're going to have a window that's going to pop up and that's going to ask us what we want to do. So we're doing compositing because it could be pre-comp, it could be roto, it could be a lot of stuff. Now version 7. No, I don't want the latest version because that's the one in the... It's like the auto backup. I just want the last one that was saved. It will tell you if there's a change in the database, in this case like the frame range, if you want to change it or not. Okay, so now I get the comp here. If we started the comp at version 1, like the first one, you would only get this. These are the plates that are done, and there's time offset here, time range, everything is set up automatically. You just start your comp and you already have this already set up for you. Just like in Blender, we can version up the project. And we also have an asset browser where we can select the last render we just did in Blender. It's the exact same asset browser that we have in Blender, works the same way, so we get all the stuff here and we can select the latest version that we did. You just need to click on import and it's going to bring it in your scene. Oh, and speaking of asset browser, I totally forgot. Well, we have it in Blender 2 and this is what we use to bring our 99 red balloons in the scene. And as I mentioned before this, we should see the published version and not the different versions. Actually, we should have access to both, but you're supposed to pick the latest version. So you just import and here we go. We just imported the latest version of our 99 red balloons.
So this is our pipeline. Now every major studio will have their own pipeline, automatic stuff, start and end frames and the image planes and all this stuff automatic. There's nothing new about it. What's different about this one is the ability to separate the data and the beauty. This I haven't seen anywhere. If you work in Katana for your setup, for rendering setup, of course you could do this. That's not a problem. But if you work directly in Maya, no way you can do this. And you don't have a compositor in Maya, so you cannot do pre-comp with all your image planes and all this stuff that we do, which is very cool. Also, you can see that I never ever input a name manually, so I don't end up with something like car, V5, final, unapproved, revision 4, final, dot blend. It never happens. Everything is named automatically, everything is saved at the right place, everything is well organized, and we have our asset manager that works for both Nuke and Blender, which is very cool, and Houdini also. So everything is all set up as one big ecosystem. And this way you never get into the situation where you're like, where's my file? Or what was its name? I don't remember. Which version was it? You don't have these issues anymore. Everything is there, everything is in F-track, everything is available to the entire company. This pipeline is really awesome. I love working with it. I think it's the best one I ever had.
So you would love to work with all these cool toys? Well, you can if you can work for us, because all this stuff is tightly integrated into our system. It's hard coded. It's not like we can make an add-on and distribute it for free to everyone. We would love to do it, but it's just not possible. But we are hiring people. We're looking for mid-level to senior people, so 3 years of experience minimum in film or television. I don't care which software you use. We need people. We badly need people. We're in Canada. We're in Quebec, actually. And if you're interested, you can send your resume and your demo reel. I want a demo reel. I don't want to see just still images. I want to see moving stuff, because we're doing VFX, not just still images. And the link is in the description, so check it out. 96, 97, 98, 99, 99. Got it?
Note to self, never do push-ups again.